Former federal prosecutor Joe Moreno joins me. Joe, before we even get to the hearing on Monday, I referred to the DA Willis as rude. And look, you know, in every courtroom, I give wide latitude to the litigants going a little nutty and saying rude things and being bad because they're upset and they're part of it. But as an officer of the court, and she is an officer of the court, you know, while she might have passion strength, she was. I thought that her performance, even if she's right, her performance was bad because it did not bring much dignity to the proceeding.
It's bad optics. Remember, there's no jury that she's up there posturing for. Her audience is the judge. And
well,
so,
except the jury is everybody in Georgia watching it on TV.
But the decision maker is the judge, right? So there's no reason to antagonize him or showboat or kind of, you know, put these antics on when really he's looking for substance. And I agree. Remember, though, it's possible that the decision for her to testify was very last minute. If you recall, up to the moment she walked into that courtroom, she was objecting to getting on the stand. Only at the last minute did she say, okay, I'll do it. So at that point, I have to wonder how sort of psychologically, mentally ready she was up there. And maybe if she had more time to prepare, she would have been less feisty up there.
All right, now let's turn to this hearing that's going to be done privately in the judges' chambers. I'm very worried as a lawyer that the attorney-client privilege is being eroded in this country. And if you don't like Fani Willis and you don't like Nathan Wade, it's easy to say, well, let's hear from the lawyer. Well, that attorney-client privilege is so important. We've seen it. We've seen Trump's lawyers being called before grand juries or testify. This, you know, I actually hope that the judge rules that the divorce lawyer can't talk.
You know, I agree. And I'm not a Georgia lawyer, but under basic legal principles, the attorney-client privilege should be respected in all the most remote instances of serious violent crimes or instances where there's no other way to get information. And even then, it's dicey. In a case like this, I agree. I would strongly advise against breaching that privilege unless there's some darn good reason to do it. And my preference is, as much as I'd love to hear
I'd love to hear it too, but I just think it would be such a mistake to violate that privilege. I think people are so apt to take sides on this case that they sort of lose sight of the fact how important that privilege is. Because
you're absolutely right. There are certain norms like courtroom decorum, attorney-client privilege, treatment of witnesses that still should be maintained. No matter how emotionally invested we are in a case like this with all this soap opera drama, we can't lose sight of the basic tenets of the law.
Now let me put you on the spot. If you were the judge, looking at all the evidence, would you disqualify her or not? And why? What's the reason?
I don't think so. I mean, look, you can more or less hire whoever you want as a prosecutor. The idea of a conflict is when a prosecutor will not pursue all avenues against a possible defendant, will hold back, basically. So in the case of Joe Biden, there's special counsels because he's being investigated, or at least he was, and his son's being investigated. In this case, there's no argument that she would go light on Donald Trump or his co-defendants. There's this concept that she poorly chose Nathan Wade or chose him because he was in a relationship with her and she wanted to pay him. That's all bad.
I'll tell you why I would. Because I think you've got to try to in some way instill some sort of credibility in the system. And I thought that when she filed in that divorce case, Jocelyn Wade, I thought she threatened Jocelyn Wade. I read through the lines, and she was threatening Wade's ex-wife. I thought that was terrible. I thought it was abuse of her office. I also think the fact that they had this relationship, and she says it was after she chose Nathan Wade. Well, fine, it's after she chose Nathan Wade, but it was before they got the indictment. Yeah. So there's, so it does look like, and they're taking these trips together. Maybe they're totally innocent, but at some point, somebody's got to call stop to this. And you can't split hairs and say, well, she was here, she did this, she did that. I think, you know what, move her to the next county. She's done.
She has a ton of ethics problems on her hands, as she should. She has a lot to answer for. And she should walk away. And the fact that she's fighting so vociferously not to walk away makes me think it's less about the case and more about Fani Willis and the publicity she's gotten as a result of the case. She should walk away. I don't understand why she's not. And she's distracting from the case, which really has its own problems separate from all this nonsense.
I can't even imagine what the morale is in her office, because she went outside and chose Nathan Wade, who, I don't know when the relationship started, and at that point I don't really care, but she's probably got 50 to 60 prosecutors who are very experienced, know how to try cases. So she decides to go outside the office, spend taxpayer money to get this special counsel who's never tried these cases. And so all these experienced lawyers, I mean, even if she wanted to go outside the office, she should have taken an experienced former DA DA who's just left her office who knows how to try these cases.
That's the big thing here. It's not the relationship. It's the fact that he is so unqualified to prosecute such
and it was her decision.
Complex RICO case that's the problem here. That's what should make people say, well, was this case ever serious to begin with? Or was this just an avenue, one, to get Fani Willis basically international name recognition, and two, to funnel a couple $100,000 to her boyfriend? If that's the case, then the case has a lot of problems. Her hands are full with ethics issues, but again, I'm not sure it's enough to disqualify her.
I think it's an appearance of impropriety, go. That's what I would do. If she has enough sense to do it herself, the judge should. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Joe Moreno, thank you. All right, you know the rock band, the